Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Devasesha Sunyavahari Astyacha Deshatari Sarasvate Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sunyavari Astyacharisha Karine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Shri Shri Gauranitai Nitai Sundar Gaurani Ki Jai, Shri Shri Jagannatha Baladev Shabada Ki, Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Ki, Shri Prabhupada Ki, Gaur Premanandi, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to Shri Guru and Grand glorious to Shri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Namo Om Vishnu Vedaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane, Namaste Saraswati Devam, Gauravani Vacharine, Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pastichade Shatane. Om Gana Timarandasya Yanandjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasme Shri Gurave Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadanti Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Sri Rupam Sarvajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Srivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parejana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopakanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshri Vishwavanussute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, I don't know where we're reading tonight. No plan. So here we are. We've opened first one. I didn't stick with, but the second one, we'll go there. This is the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Everybody knows what the 7th chapter is called. What is the title of the 7th chapter? Don't look on your book. Don't look in your mobiles. Do not look on your mobile. Hey, don't look on your mobile. What is the 7th chapter called? Knowledge of the Absolute. There's knowledge of the absolute. What is the absolute? What is the absolute? I don't know if everybody grasps the meaning of this word in the same way. It may be used in different ways, I suppose. But what is the absolute? What is it? The complete whole. From our perspective, what's the dictionary definition? Look it up. You look it up on your mobile. What does the dictionary say the meaning of absolute is? Okay. You're all getting your mobiles out. One person can probably find it. Absolute dictionary meaning. Oxford Dictionary or Merriam or whatever it's called. So the knowledge of the absolute, and we're going to knowledge about that absolute. That which is beyond the material world. But it also includes the material world as a part of the whole. So we're going to go for text number 7, which is quite a well-known verse, and I'm sure many of you know this verse. So what's the meaning of absolute? You're very slow.
Viewed or existing independently.
Pardon?
Viewed or existing independently and not in relation to other things. Not relative or comparative.
Not into relationship with what?
Not relative or comparative.
Not relative. It exists, self-existing. Okay, that's a nice way. It's not depending on anything else. It's not relative. It doesn't change in its essence, at least. It's totally self-dependent. Self-dependent? Yeah. Doesn't depend on anything else. Beyond everything else. It's definitely one of the understandings of the Supreme Person. It is completely independent of everything else. Yet he may be dependent by his own choice, you could say. So text number 7, without looking, who knows this? 7-7. Shamsundra, you probably already looked on your mobile, have you? Who knows it without looking? 7-7. Pardon?
They already put on the screen.
Put it on the screen. That's the problem with modern technology. You never learn anything. Everything's on the screen. Your brain doesn't work. You don't have to use your brain anymore. You just have to know which button to press. That's all you need to know these days. Yeah. I'm living in 50 years ago where, you'd be tested like this daily. What's this one? What's that one? I was with Prahlad Nanda Maharaj. We were driving down to Byron Bay in Australia once. We sat together. And he was saying to me, I don't think I was a sannyasi, I can't remember. I'm not one now, but I was not even initiated as one then. So he was saying, say a verse. No, give a number. Any number, Bhagavad Gita, verse number. 16:8. And then he would say the word for word meaning, the Sanskrit, the word for word and the English translation. Okay, 17:4, and it's the same thing. 6:5, same thing. There's every single verse, word for word also. Yeah, he's got one of those memories. Got a memory. He was married. We had a brahmachari retreat in London last year. European retreat. 70 devotees came maybe. Mostly from the UK actually. Brahmacharis, a handful from France. So five sannyasis, I think there were 5. So everyone spoke for 5-10 minutes before the meetings began, just introduction. And so they all spoke, and I said, well, because they never got married, any of the others, so I said, I'm a little bit different, so I can speak a little differently about the truth, not just about the idealism. So I spoke a little differently. But before I spoke, Prahlad Nanda said, no, that's not right. I was also married. I never knew he was married. I said, Maharaj, you were married? Yes. When was that? He said, 1 week. He was married for 1 week. And I know it was in Buffalo, I think. Temple President one suggested he get married, so he said, you're marrying this girl today, you're getting married. So they got married, he kind of looked at her and she looked at him. And he said, I couldn't handle it after a week. Every time I'd read the Bhagavad Gita, she fell asleep, so I just left her. So it's a good excuse, husbands, if your wife falls asleep while you're... He's a GBC, Minister of Health, and Guru, disciple, everything. If your wife falls asleep when you're reading Bhagavad Gita, you're fully justified, okay? Or if you're reading the Bhagavad Gita and your husband falls asleep, you're fully justified. Isn't that incredible? I mean, no. That was the end. That was the end of their marriage. 1 week. Amazing. Anyway, Hare Krishna. But he knows the Bhagavad Gita. And he spoke that. He spoke it in front of all. I thought it was a very unusual start to the Sankirtan at the Brahmachari meeting, you know, explaining his married life. And then the next thing he said was very even funnier. In this, when he made his own speech, he said, how many of you were here? No, one of the others said, how many of you brahmacharis were here at our last retreat that we had, you know? There was 2 hands went up, you know, out of 70. And then Prahlada Maharaj was like the caller of the meeting, really. He said, someone said, what happened to everybody? And Maharaj said, they all got married within 1 year of the meeting. There's only 2 left. That was a great start to the meeting. Very encouraging to the brahmacharis. You're going to get married, and after 1 week, that would be over. What will you try next? I don't know. Anyway, that's, I guess you'd say, not the norm, I hope. No, it wasn't quite. I don't think it was as bad as Mad made out. Anyway, text number 7. Apparently you already have it on the screen. Is that right? So this particular verse, you could say, is one of the key verses of this chapter and related to knowledge of the absolute truth, because it kind of defines the absolute truth as well as gives knowledge of the absolute truth. So we can repeat. Matak parataram nanyat kinchit asti dhananjaya mahi sarvam idam protang sutre manigana eva matak parataram nanyat kinchit asti dhananjaya Mayi sarvam idam protam Sutre manikana iva Matak parataram nanyat Kinchirasti dhananjaya Mayi sarvam idam protam Sutre manikana iva. Who knows this off by heart? I mean, you know what I mean, memorized. Anybody? Okay, any Prabhus like to chant it? Mr. Brian, know it off by heart? Okay, so close your eyes and make sure he's closed his eyes, okay? Okay, go ahead. No, we're going to repeat after you. Sometimes it's hard to break it down, I know. Anyway, use the board, no problem. You can open your eyes, okay? You might fall. Matak parataram nanyat kinchirasti dhananjaya Sutre maniganaiva Matak parataram nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya
Mahi sarvam idam protam
Mahi Sarvamidam Protam
Sutre manigana iva.
Sutre Manigana Iva. Ladies. Matak Paratarananyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya Sutre Manigana Iva Matak Parataram Nanyat Kinchid Asti Dhananjaya Sutre Manigana Iva Matak beyond me Parataram superior no not Anyat excuse me Anyat kinship anything else Asti there is Dhananjaya O conqueror of wealth Mai in me Sarvam all that be Idam which we see Protam is strong Sutre on a thread Maniganaha pearls Eva like. Here's a translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strong or thread. Purport. There is a common controversy over whether the Supreme Absolute Truth is personal or impersonal. As far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, the Absolute Truth is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And this is confirmed in every step. In this verse in particular, it is stressed that the Absolute Truth is a person. That the personality of Godhead is the Supreme Absolute Truth. It's also the affirmation of the Brahma Samhita. And if it's maybe on the screen so you can repeat it. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. That is the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, is Lord Krishna, who is the primeval Lord, the reservoir of all pleasure, Govinda, and the eternal form of complete bliss and knowledge. These authorities leave no doubt that the Absolute Truth is the Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. The impersonalist, however, argues on the strength of the Vedic injunction, Vedic version, given in the Svetashvatara Upanishad, Tato yad uttaratang tad arupam anamayami tad viduram mitaste bhavanti ate tare dukam eva priyanti. In the material world, Brahma, the primeval living entity within the universe, is understood to be the supreme amongst the demigods, human beings and lower animals. But beyond Brahma there is the Transcendence, who has no material form and is free from all material contaminations. Anyone who can know him also becomes transcendental. But those who do not know him suffer the miseries of the material world. Srila Prabhupada makes it clear here that when verses that describe the Supreme Lord as having no limbs, no senses, no form. It's related to, let's say, our experience, our understanding of form and name and senses and limbs and so on. He has no material limbs, no material form. That doesn't exclude the fact that he can have form, but it's not material. It's not of this energy, this material energy, unlike conditioned souls. The idea is to help us to understand, and the transcendental, if we go to the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, what's the 4th chapter called? 4th chapter, don't put it on the screen please. What's the 4th chapter called? Anybody know? Chapter 4. Transcendental knowledge, Divyagam, chapter 4. And transcendental knowledge. So we're hearing about transcendental here, that which is beyond, and knowledge of that. So the 4th chapter gives, preliminary at least, not just the nature of transcendence, but the means to attain it. Now, knowledge is not just some kind of theory. It's in the material world, knowledge may be seen to be theoretical also. So theoretical knowledge is really only as much use as you can utilize it. So in spiritual life we see, I'll go to that verse first of all, but in the 4th chapter is a verse, there are many wonderful verses here. It talks about there's nothing, text number 38 and 39. In this world there's nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism. And one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. This verse, or many verses, of course can be seen from different angles. The impersonalists will see this in terms of Brahman realization. Enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. But the devotee, what is that knowledge? Is not just some theoretical knowledge or just some, dismantling of the modes of nature and just existing in one's own spiritual identity, but that knowledge is knowledge of one's relationship with the Supreme Person. It's knowledge of the nature of the Supreme Person. Now, we get pleasure, for instance, let's say you have a loving relationship with somebody. When you think of their qualities, when you think of their form, a mother, even when she sees say the child has gone to school, the son or daughter, and they left their dirty socks on the floor. The mother gets pleasure seeing those socks, especially if the child's away for a while and maybe gone out on a trip somewhere. It reminds her of her son or daughter, and she feels pleasure in that relationship, in that memory. So that she likes to hear the qualities. She loves to hear the children's results, the hopefully favorable ones. She likes to hear the children's achievements and so on. It's natural. So devotees love to hear or remember the qualities of Krishna. It brings great pleasure on a much higher level. Of course, the qualities of Krishna are totally transcendental, so one feels transcendental pleasure. Transcendental pleasure has no relative effect. It is not limited by time, place, and circumstance. Materially, it's limited. You get a certain amount of pleasure out of something. but it's limited, and spiritual pleasure is ever increasing. So many wonderful verses, and 10th chapter is a famous verse, how devotees relish this transcendental knowledge. Who knows that verse? 10th chapter. What's the 10th chapter called? Pardon? I think you got it. My hearing is not as good as it probably should be, but you probably got it right. Does anyone close by can repeat what the devotee said? Thank you. Opulence of the Absolute. And there's 4 verses in that chapter, 10th chapter. They're sometimes called the seed verses. The essence, these verses are the essence of the Gita. They're contained, the essence is contained within these 4 verses. Who knows what they are? There's also knowledge of the Absolute that gives us, in a nutshell, the 4 verses. Who knows what they are? Let's go there. And we'll go back to chapter 4. Somebody's brave enough to speak up. Yes, what did you say? Pardon? Yeah, very good. Who said that? You did. He's from Singapore. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam, the same. Tak sarvam, the same. Matak, from me. From me. Matak is from me. There's no truth superior to me. It's not that the personal Brahman is superior to me, it's under Brahman, under Krishna. Brahmanihi patishtaham, it's under Krishna. Krishna says, I am the source of all the spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. Everything emanates from Krishna. It may appear in different ways because Krishna has many energies. And one of those energies, material energy, comprising of the various 3 modes of nature, that energy which comes from Krishna has a transformative effect on other energies. And it converts them into what we see as material objects. Even the spirit soul, in contact with the modes of nature, or Maya, becomes, develops a different identity, appears different. The soul's the same. There's no change in reality, whether the soul is in a liberated condition or a conditioned condition. That's not right, is it? Anyway, whether the soul is conditioned or liberated, the soul is of the same caliber, but just covered over by the material energy, covered over by forgetfulness or misidentification, you see. But it's all Krishna's energy. Both the covering and the removal of that covering is also coming from Krishna. We're coming from Krishna. Everything comes from Krishna. This is almost inconceivable in so many angles, you could say. Same thing as we heard yesterday. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. In the verse I was referring to, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service and they derive great satisfaction. How do they derive their satisfaction? We should have told this to the Rolling Stones. They could have got some satisfaction, but they didn't take it. They didn't catch it. How do they derive these great devotees? How do they derive great satisfaction? What's the secret? Pardon?
Speaking about enlightening the glories of it.
I think so. What do you say? Speaking?
Speaking about glories.
Yes, beautiful. They derive great satisfaction and bliss not just a feeling of self-content, but they're actually experiencing the positive bliss of love for God or contact with Krishna. From always, not just once a week, once in a while, always enlightening one another and conversing about me. They're always. So they derive great satisfaction like that. So this, because Krishna is the absolute truth, they're getting the highest form of pleasure. When we talk about relative truths, you may get some relative pleasure, depending. Sometimes it's relative misery, but we get something. But the absolute truth, and the characteristic of the absolute truth, you can always talk about him. You can always chant his glories. The material world is very difficult, it's not the exact word. You can't do it. Time separates things, interferes. I mean, we try to chant constantly, but we know we don't. Sleep comes along, other things come along, distractions. Time takes everything away, but on the absolute platform there's no such effect of time. Everything's eternal, and everyone's eternally putting the holy name or Krishna in the center of their lives. So that's the 10th chapter rather, and we'll go back now to the 4th chapter, where Krishna says, in this, well, we've read that verse, and the next verse, text 39, he says, a faithful man, so having understood what is that knowledge of the transcendental nature of the Lord, a faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. What do you make of that? I hope it's not on the board. Is it on the board? Try not to do that, because it defers us away from learning. It defers us away from thinking. You simply have to read it, that's all, which isn't a great achievement. So, what do we make of that? A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. So what would you say? If someone said, what does that mean? Maybe it's quite simple, but what would you say? What does it mean? Achieve such knowledge. A faithful man who dedicates himself to such knowledge and subdues their senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. So what does it mean?
If you want to achieve transcendental knowledge, you need to get your senses subdued.
Okay, that's saying it in a roundabout way. You're just taking the sentence and turning it around a little bit, in one sense. But in terms of practicality, Vishnu Prabhu.
It means you cannot achieve this knowledge if you do not have controlled senses under the guidance of the Vaishnava system and etiquette. You don't have those controlled senses, then that knowledge, the real knowledge, is not going to come.
The real knowledge, what is the real knowledge?
The knowledge with realization.
The knowledge which is?
Realization.
Pardon?
With realization.
Realization. There's knowledge and there's realized knowledge, isn't it? So when we dedicate ourselves, and that's including here subduing one's senses, which we all know is not so easy, but when we dedicate ourselves to the path, the knowledge which is given, the path of, in our case, of devotion. For the Mayavadi, the path may have some slight difference, of course, but they also gain a level of realization. It's not the absolute in the full, it's not the full absolute, it's partial. But for one who understands the path, dedicates himself to that path, it's not just a theoretical knowledge. When we're talking of knowledge, it's not just, yes, I know. I remember when I first came to the temple, there was one man Indian gentleman, I do remember his name most of the time, but I can't remember it now. And he was coming daily to the temple. He was the secretary of the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan in London. They had some library there. And he was the secretary. And he would come every day, and the man was well learned. He would always be chirping up with verses from the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata and the this and the that. Very learned. But, he had a great difficulty. He couldn't give up smoking, he couldn't give up drinking, he couldn't even be a vegetarian most of the time. He knew these things, but he couldn't do it. Of course, it's another thing, the how we can give these things up is another thing, but he wasn't able to do it, so he wasn't really able to get the realization. It's amazing how a simple person, they can be very simple. I don't know if this is meant to be lying down here. Whose is this? It's lying on my lap. Is it meant? Maybe it's meant to be there, I don't know. A simple person, they may not have much theoretical learning or knowledge, but they're dedicated to that which it's telling us. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was on a tour of South India, we were reading it this morning from Lord Chaitanya's tour. When he came to Sri Rangam, now most of you have heard of, if not been to Sri Rangam maybe, in South India, he spent 4 months there actually, the longest he spent anywhere on his tour. And there he also met one Brahmana in the temple of Lord Jagannatha. The Brahmin was kind of holding the Bhagavad Gita and trying to read it. Trying. And tears were rolling from his eyes. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he saw Lord Chaitanya, of course he offers obeisances. Lord Chaitanya was wondering, what are you doing? He said, I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita. But why are tears rolling from your eyes? So he said, actually, I'm more or less illiterate. I can barely read. But my spiritual master asked me to read the Bhagavad Gita every day. And why are you crying? Well, when I meditate upon the fact that the Lord, Krishna, my Lord, takes the role of the chariot driver of his devotee, Arjuna, I can't stop crying. Jai Jaya. Haribo. And Lord Chaitanya said, you may not be able to read a word of the Bhagavad Gita, but you've understood every word. You've realized. You had the realization of that knowledge. And oftentimes we find that somebody who's dedicated themselves to the service of their spiritual master, dedicated themselves to the instructions of Krishna, are actually, they have this deep realizations. Others may have theoretical knowledge. Those, in that case, what it means, they've dedicated their senses, their whole being in the service of the Lord or the devotee. And the Lord gives, Krishna gives that realization. It doesn't come by a mechanical thing, like if you learn 90% of the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, you will be realized. It doesn't work like that. We have to put them into practice. One has to have the right attitude. The attitude. And then when Krishna sees, this knowledge is realized. What did he say in the 9th chapter? 9.2? Who knows the 9th chapter, text number 2? Somebody started it right on the right word. Who said that? Somebody said it. Thank you. Raja Vidya Rajaguyam Avitram Idam Uttamam. But then the next line. Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam. Next line. Susukam Kartam Avayam. Beautiful verse, huh? Let's have a look at that. Text 9. I can't believe it, I just opened it straight on it. Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam. Pratyaksha, direct experience. It's not just You know, there's a difference between realization and remembrance, and realization can be the same. But when we say remembrance, we're kind of trying to remember, what was that verse now? Where is it? Yes, 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 yes. That's it. I got it. Da, 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 da. Realization is you're seeing it. You're actually living it. It's actually alive. That's the difference between a pure devotee and aspiring devotee. We're trying to remember what to do. The pure devotee doesn't have to remember what to do. They don't do anything else. They automatically do it. Spontaneous. We have to kind of think, what was that verse now? You know, or what did they say I should do in this situation? We're kind of trying, you know. We're trying. I better ask somebody. We're trying, which is good. The pure devotee automatically does. He may also ask for the sake of other people's benefits to show the example and so on, but otherwise he automatically does what Krishna wants. This knowledge, Krishna says, is the king of education. We've all gone to school, probably college, maybe you studied a degree or something. We've all got some material knowledge, isn't it? What's the king of material knowledge? Is there like a goal of material knowledge above everything else? Is there a goal? You can't really, I don't think you can say a goal. It'll change, it'll be different according to time, place and circumstance, I think. There's not really a goal. I mean, there's a general goal of, you know, getting some means by where you can sustain yourself with a job and what have you. But there's not, you can't really say a pinnacle. There's no end to it, is there? There's no kind of, what's the goal? There's no real goal there, is there? It's just something you do as a part of your kind of your life. But there's no real goal there. Maybe the goal is to escape suffering, you may say. The goal is to become eternal in knowledge. They sometimes try to come up with that, isn't it? To try to, I remember in the 50s it was a common thing, late 50s, I mean, I can't remember the early, but the late 50s, we were told that science was promising us, we're definitely going to make your life eternal very soon. You won't have to die. Huh? You heard that before? Huh? What was it? What was that? Huh?
50 still now, still the same.
Still the same? They're still saying that now? They're still saying that we're going to make life eternal. You don't have to die. Do you want to stay in this body eternally? Would you like to stay in this body eternally? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it depends, I suppose, what state you're in and what state you'd stay eternally. Would you like to stay eternally suffering? It's a kind of like a dreamy kind of idea. It doesn't, when you think about it carefully, it doesn't go down very well, really. To stay in this body eternally, what's that mean? I have to eternally go through with the same person all the time, you know? I have a hard enough time as it is, you know. A hard enough time with all the issues and stress of life. Eternal, boy. No escape. Wow. Okay, maybe some fears have gone away, but there's a lot more to it than that. So there's no real king of knowledge in this world. So this knowledge of the nature of Godhead and our relationship with Him is the king of knowledge. Knowledge of Brahman is not the king of knowledge, it's partial only. Knowledge of Krishna, or the Absolute in full, is the king of knowledge. The most secret of all secrets, because people read the Bhagavad Gita, most people don't come to this conclusion, you know that? They don't come to the conclusion that Krishna is the summum bonum, that He's the absolute truth. The goal of life is to, you know, attain Him. They don't come to that conclusion. They come to some impersonal conclusion. For many people, the 11th chapter is the essence of the Gita. Isn't it? I don't know if you've had that experience. I had that experience because during my youth at least, Bhagavad Gita was becoming quite popular in England amongst the students. Almost without exception, the 11th chapter was the chapter that was like the essence of the Gita. And it comes over, most of the comments come over as this is a kind of like beyond the vision of your mundane senses, is this impersonal, non-personal kind of truth, you know, like an energy which pervades everything. That's true, but that's not the source. There's a source to that energy. So there's a lovely verse in the 11th chapter which Prabhupada describes quite interestingly. I think it's number 54, 55, somewhere around there. Yeah, 55. Text 55 of the 11th chapter, after describing, Arjuna wanted to see Krishna's, you could say, greatness in everything, his presence in everything. So Krishna showed him the universal form, how he's literally there in everything, not just telling him about it, but showed him. And then, so that to most people is cosmic manifestation. Is Virat Rupa is like the essence. It's not even coming to Brahman actually, it's just an idea of this cosmic experience. It's nothing beyond the cosmos, you know. It's like cool. Most of the hippies were like that, cosmic. So but this verse 55, my dear Arjuna, Krishna says, this is in the 11th chapter, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me and makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living entity, he certainly comes to me. And Prabhupada says in the purport, therefore this verse is considered to be the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. It's in the 11th chapter. This is the essence of the Gita, this verse, he says. Why? Because anyone who wants to approach the supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet in the spiritual sky and be intimately connected with the Supreme Lord Krishna must take this formula as stated by the Supreme himself. You have to take this formula. There's no other way around it. This is the formula. It's not just learning things and being, theoretically knowledgeable, but it's this process, attitude and working for Krishna, engaging in devotional service. So Krishna reveals himself, also says here in the 11th chapter, there's another famous verse, and in the 18th chapter also, how one can understand Krishna. How do you understand Krishna? How can we understand Krishna? Pardon? Yes. What's the verse? 18th chapter, 50 something, is it? 54 or 55? I don't know. Something along there. Bhaktyamam. Bhaktyamam. Abhijananti. Bhaktyamam Abhijanati. Who knows that verse? 18, 55, 54, I don't know, somewhere around there, as far as my memory serves me right. 55. Bhaktyamam Abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tattvataha. You know this verse? Tomam tattvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. One can understand me as I am, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Full consciousness of Krishna by devotion. It's not, oh, you passed your exam, you're eligible to enter, go back to Godhead. No, not like that. Oh, you have a lot of money in the bank. If you give me 10 million euros, you are able to go back to Godhead. Very good. Oh, you're a PhD, you're eligible to go back to Godhead. It's not like that, is it? How do you go back to Godhead? Pardon? Which airline? I think he said Air France, I'm not sure. Finnair. I couldn't hear what you said. A little louder.
By fully surrender.
Full surrender. From our point of view, full surrender, very good. But from the absolute point of view, what is the secret of going back to God? Or what is the secret of realization? It's the same thing. If we go back to the 9th chapter, we'll come to it now. What is the secret? Huh? Well, chanting is the process which is recommended for Kali Yuga. There's no doubt. Chanting and full surrender, you could put the two together, okay. But that's not enough. Pardon? This is the essence, and this is called the Paribhasya Sutra verse of the Bhagavad Gita. It sums up you could say, the entirety of the teaching of the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita in terms of the fruit of understanding the Gita is in that verse. But a little bit more, I was looking at it from an angle of reality, an angle of the absolute. That's still from our angle. That's from our angle. What is the secret? But that's just adding another word to surrender, to devotional service, to always thinking of Krishna, to engaging fully. These are all, that's from our point of view, this is the process. But what does it depend upon? What does it depend upon? In of itself, does it cause the result in of itself? What's the cause? Huh?
It is a decision of Krishna if we go back.
Very good. Ultimately it depends, everything depends on Krishna. As pearls are strong on a thread, everything rests upon me. The verse we just read. Maniganaiva. Everything depends on Krishna. So it's entirely depending upon Krishna's mercy. Prabhupada writes in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the purport 176, Prabhupada says, the mechanical process, he said, the awakening of our loving affection for Krishna does not at all depend upon the mechanical process of hearing and chanting, but depends wholly and solely on the mercy of the Lord. Wholly and solely, that means entirely. But to evoke that mercy, that's from our side, yes, everything you said is correct. But ultimately it depends, the absolute, let's say, cause is the mercy of the Lord. That's the real factor. Even that is not like we can make it happen. And that realization is not something which is automatic. You may have some theoretical understanding, but the realization is, again, it's Krishna giving that realization, that pachaksha vagamam dharmyam. And because it is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. But that direct perception of the self is also Krishna's mercy. And that's another aspect of understanding this King of Knowledge, that it depends upon his mercy. It is everlasting and is joyfully performed. Everlasting, and that's what everyone wants. Scientists wants. We live everlastingly and we live joyfully. But that's a utopian idea. There's no utopia in this world. We dream of it. But that's the spiritual nature. Everything's eternal. Sat-chit-ananda, full of bliss and eternal. So we'll go back to the 4th chapter, which is where we were drifting around, which is called Divya Gyan, transcendental knowledge. And let's see what Krishna says there. 4th chapter. Most of this chapter, by the way, is aimed at the means to attain or to evoke that realization or that understanding. Different practices that devotees or people undergo, and it culminates in one verse in the 4th chapter, which is in the 4th chapter you could say is the key verse in this whole process of self-realization. What's that key verse?
90.
Pardon?
490.
4.9 is the actual, in one sense, but there's one verse which is the key, the 4.9 is the actual essential verse which you could say, what can you say, captures the whole subject matter. But there's one verse which opens the door to that. Without that, that verse remains simply a theory. There's one verse which opens the door. 4:34. What is that verse? Tadvidi pranipatena sevaya utekshanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshinaha. What does that mean? Pardon?
Inquire submissively.
Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, and then, pardon? Inquire what? Submissively. Not just challenging, but submissively, and render service, and then,
He will impart.
because the self-realized spiritual master has seen the truth, he can impart knowledge unto you. What does it mean? Is it like this idea? Come here, I'll give you the truth here. Come here. I'm imparting it to you. Boom. Have you got it? You can see the light? Is that what it means? Boom, boom. What does he impart? What does he give us? Excuse me? Pardon?
He will impart that we are the eternal servant of the Supreme.
He'll give you knowledge, you could say like that. Knowledge, and if you may accept that. But it's more than that, isn't it? This 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita deals not just with knowledge, it deals with practically applying it, isn't it? That's the real thing. He shows us, gives us the practical application of that knowledge. That's the idea. By practically applying that knowledge, as the 9th chapter said, and the 4th chapter later on says also, then one realizes that knowledge in due course of time. The realization comes by the mercy of Krishna. But let's read on, and then we'll come to your verse. I'm actually on that verse right now, but I'll go back a little bit to the beginning. The chapter number 4 starts off with the same principle, doesn't it? How Krishna explains to Arjuna how this knowledge is received. Through a line of, what's the famous? Discipleship. And what's that verse? Evam? Imam Rajashyo Vidu. That verse. Sakalena Mata. Very good. So very famous verses. And then, of course, Krishna explains the difference, you could say, between he and the ordinary living entity. He appears in this world, but many births, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. This is one of the characteristics of Godhead. He can remember everything. Can you remember everything? You can't remember everything? Why not? You're God. I thought you were God. You're not God? Really? You're pretty useless. He can't remember everything. It's incredible. It's inconceivable thought, isn't it, to remember everything? Because it means you have to remember everything in the future as well as the past. If you look at it from a relative point of view, isn't it? We heard the other day what it means actually, but if you take it literally, you'd have to know everything. Well, Krishna does know everything. That's the difference, and it's quite a big difference. If we ask ourselves, what was I doing at 5 yesterday afternoon? You'd have a hard time remembering, wouldn't you? You might be able to work it out more or less, but you'd have a hard time really remembering that. What to speak of what you were doing. Tell me, what were you doing? I don't know when you were born, but let's say when you were 6 months old, what were you doing? Tell me exactly. Where were you? What you were doing? What can we remember? Nothing, probably. Maybe you heard something or guessed something, but we can hardly hear and remember hardly anything, really. But you know, you were 6 months. At least we think we were 6 months old at one time. You were in the womb. We can't remember anything. But Krishna can remember everything for all it's worth. He has this capacity because he's the Samabonam. He's the absolute truth. He's the whole. Everything's contained within him. Everything's resting on him. Yet he exists independent of all of that at the same time. This is all very inconceivable to a conditioned soul. But that's what makes him God. So he can remember everything. Then he says, although I am unborn, now this is a key verse also, Ajopi son of Yayatma, Bhutanam Shvopi san prakitim samadishtaya sambhavamya mayaya. Although I'm unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates. He's unborn, his body never deteriorates, and although I'm the Lord of all living entities, he's not just the Lord of 1 or 2 kids. And you're only Lord of 1 or 2 kids for 1 or 2 years until they grow up, then, you know, you become that, they become your Lord. They tell you what to do. No one's a Lord in this world, really. We try to be. I still appear, Krishna says, in every millennium in my original transcendental form. He doesn't come in a conditioned form. He comes in his original transcendental form. He has no business in this world coming and trying to enjoy material energy. He comes in his original transcendental form. And why does he come then? Krishna explains why he comes, doesn't he? These famous verses there, 2 verses. Why does he come? Yada yada hi dharmasya avitanam dharmasya tadatmanam shijamyaham. That was the very first verse I learned in Sanskrit in the Bhagavad Gita. And I learned it, I was driving a lorry to the docks in Tilbury in London to pick up a big shipment of books which just arrived, maybe 73 or 4. And because I had a license, hardly anyone else had a license to enable me to drive, not the biggest lorries, but quite a big one. So I was driving this lorry to pick up these books, and Rohini Nandan was sat next to me. You may have heard the name Rohini Nandan. If you've been around a while, you'll have heard that name. He was famous devotee in the 80s, particularly 80s and 90s. Very wonderful devotee. And he was really into this, and he wrote a beautiful little book on verses, a sloka book, actually, first one to write a sloka book. And he was chanting, you know, I was kind of like mentoring him a little bit in the early days. So he was reading from Bhagavad Gita, we had reading, so we wanted to learn a verse. So he was chanting this, and we were chanting it together, and we learned it in the lorry. Where's Rajasham? Where's Rajasham? He's not here. He can learn verses in his lorry when he's driving along in his lorry now. So that was the first verse. What does it mean? Most Indian people know this verse, I think, isn't it? It's the most common verse, isn't it, practically amongst the Indian community. Whenever and wherever. Pardon? Yeah, wherever there's a decline in religious principles or practice, what happens? And a predominant rise of irreligion, which is basically inevitable. At that time I descend myself. Krishna comes, because he's Dharma, what's that verse? All religious principles come from Krishna. Dharma to sakshat bhagavat pranitama. I think Yamaraj said that. The real religion is established by the Lord. No one else can really do it. It comes from God. So when these lifelines are cut, the Lord comes, always sends his pure devotee to again establish that link. To deliver, and then the next verse, which is probably, for the devotee's point of view, a bit more sweet. What's the next verse? Paritranaya sadhunam sambhavami yuge yuge. What does he say? Yeah. To deliver the pious, annihilate the who? Annihilate the miscreants. Aye. As well as, no, there's another line, as well as to establish the principles of religion, I myself appear. He himself appears. He could do it other ways, but no, he says, I myself appear. Millennium after millennium. And therefore the verse means this very thing. Machita magvat bhava oriyantak paraskaram katyantas timamitam dashyanti cha ramanti cha. To enlighten the devotees, to make them happy, perform pastimes, so on and so forth. So they can hear and remember him and become enlightened and happy. And removing not just the external miscreants, the internal ones, the anarthas within our hearts, the dirt within our hearts, to cut it out. Just like he's appeared in this age. How has he appeared in Kali Yuga? In this millennium. How has he appeared? As the holy name, Namarup. He's appeared in the form of a name in this age of Kali. And we hear this over and over again, although we may not practically apply it much. But we understand that by chanting, what are the effects of chanting? What are the effects of chanting? Are meant to be. What are they? Pardon? Cleanses the heart. Cheto Dharpanamarjanam. First effect, isn't it? Cleanses the heart. By exposing ourselves to this pure sound vibration of the holy name. We chant, but we all know our chanting, so, I can't say for everyone obviously, but in much of the case we experience it's very mechanical, we're not really associating properly, we're doing our duty. We're not, the intimacy, the hearing, the submission, the dependence, the desperate cry out to the Lord for His mercy isn't always there. We need to be so submissive or surrendered. What do you say in the next verse? Now this is somebody quoted this verse just now. I think you quoted this verse, or Chandra, I think so. Then, and when Prabhupada, I don't know if it was the Sabag Maharaj, but somebody in London, Prabhupada asked them, I don't know if he asked them or told them, but he said this verse is, like we hear sometimes, the most important verse, Sarvadharman Prityagyam Hamnam Mano Bhavaman Bhakto Sarvasya Chamriti Sanivishto. Different verses, Denu Sminya Tade, hey, different place, time and circumstance, Prabhupada would say different things. But this occasion he said this verse. What is that? 4:9, what is it? One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. By knowing the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that doesn't just mean theoretically, but it means absolutely. You live it. You do it. It's not the, in and out, actual, the devotee is one who's inside is not, outside he's putting on a good show, and inside there's another thing going on altogether, a different show, but both are in and out, everything, completely sold out. So like that. And then Krishna says, 2 more verses, and we'll pop off at that point. Being freed, this is the 10th verse, being freed from attachment, fear and anger. being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me. It purifies us, just the knowledge alone. And thus, they all attain transcendental love for me. So that's the result, the fruit, is to develop transcendental love for Krishna. The last verse, we'll just read this one. Another famous verse, number 11, who knows that one? 4:11. You'll know it, you may not know it by number. Most of you who have been around a while at least will know it. It's a very well quoted verse, and it's misquoted, or let's say misinterpreted, probably as much as any other verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Ye yata mam papajyate tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama matman vartante manusya partha sarvashaha. Especially the second line. The second line is often misunderstood or misutilized. The second line, what does it mean? First line is very common. We generally only quote the first line. As they say some in different translations, here it's slightly different. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. A very important point which answers just about every question you ask about what goes on, more or less, in this world. It's reciprocating. Krishna is reciprocating. But the second line, which is quoted quite a lot, but not as much as the first one, what is the second line? Everyone, this is one verse, one line which is really misinterpreted a lot, misused. Everyone follows my path in all respects. Isn't it? O son of Pritha. Everyone follows my path in all respects. So what do people take from that one? Anything goes. Whatever you do is Krishna's path. You know, you can do what you like. It's all one. It's all the same, whatever you do. Worship this one, worship that one, worship men, worship women, worship dogs, worship trees, worship gods, worship whatever. It's all one. Different degrees of that, but that's basically, he said, you know, whatever you're doing. Yes, I'm also doing bhakti. You don't do bhakti. It's not like that. People say like that. It's all one. Every path is the same. They all lead to the same result. That's what they get from this. Every path leads to the same thing. Maybe after a few billion, trillion, zillion lifetimes. It's like if you say you want to go from here to London, and you just go that way, maybe eventually, I mean if you live that long, you might eventually reach London. Go round and round and round forevermore, and you may reach it eventually, but there's a direct route, isn't there? Yeah, is that right? How do you get to London? What do? You walk to Singapore? Huh?
Go to the airport, take a flight to London.
Take a flight. Oh, that's a quick route. Oh. Very intelligent. Go to the airport, take a flight to London. But if you catch a flight to Singapore, are you going to get to London? Maybe, if you change plane in Singapore. But in and of itself, no. If you buy a ticket to Delhi, you're not going to reach in London. Malaysian Airlines, I don't know if they fly to London, but they fly to Delhi, I think. Do they fly to Delhi, Malaysian Airlines? Yes? Do they fly to London? They do. Okay, so if you want to go to London, you don't get there by buying a ticket to Delhi, do you? They're both Malaysian airline flights. They both belong to Malaysian Airlines. But they're going to different places, different destinies. So every single path, if you look at yoga itself, all coming from Krishna. He's giving the intelligence, he's giving the means to do all these things. And the energy is coming from him, everything's coming from him. Nothing exists. Just like in this country, at least the public roads, they're all under the government, is that right? They're not private. Private roads are different, but all the public roads are under the government, but they don't all go in the same direction. Some of them are dead ends, isn't it? Some are going north, some go south, some go east, west, this way, that way. You can't say that, they all end up in the same direction. If you want to go to Penang, you don't go towards Johor. The road belongs to the same government. Everyone's following, you could say, the path given by the Lord to them according to how much they surrender to Him. It's just a reciprocation. We can't provide it any more than a child can provide toys. Parents provide the toys. Take this. So Krishna's giving us various intelligence, various means, various whatever, to try to achieve our desires. What is our relationship with Him? And if we don't want to have a relationship with Him, He'll give us toys which cause us to forget Him completely, forevermore, practically. He'll put us in darkness of ignorance, a body which will keep us in darkness. He's reciprocating with us. It's not our body, it's His energy, but He gives us that body because of our particular relationship with Him. We get a particular body. He gives it. Everything comes from Him. Hare Krishna. And He is also time, and time is passing by. But we can remember Krishna is time. So that way, whatever it is, we don't have to be afraid. Oh, I'm losing time. Oh, I'm getting old. Oh, I'm 70 years old. Oh my God, what's going to happen? When you get older you get, the more, in most cases, and it's not for those who are more advanced, but for most cases, you start to think, oh my God, I have one godbrother in France, wonderful devotee. We often talk about the reality of having to actually leave this body, actually leave the body. It's quite something, isn't it? You know what I mean? And we all see others, I'm sure most of you have been with somebody when they've left their body, right with them, I mean, and seeing what's going on. And it varies from person to person, but you don't know what's going on inside. What you see outside is not necessarily what's going on inside. It may look like a peaceful death, but you don't know what's going on inside. There's no way of telling. No one can say. Only they're experiencing that. But it's quite a daunting thought, to say the least. Leaving this body. When you get older, it becomes a reality. It's not just a theory or something you know about, but it's actually a thought which occupies us a little bit. But for a devotee, it can be quite exciting in a sense. Remember when you were kids and you're going on, so maybe, I don't know if you went on holidays here in Malaysia, but in England it was a big thing to go on holiday, going out for the day. We would be so excited. We wouldn't know where we were going because we'd never been there before, but it was like a real anticipation, wasn't it? You get all excited about it. In one sense, a devotee can be like that, It's incredible. Because you have some realization and knowledge. Prabhupada says, he writes, I think it's in the chapter dealing with Dhruva Maharaj, I can't remember exactly, but somewhere there, that for an ordinary person, old age means fear and misery. So you don't know where you're going, and you can't do what you want to do. So it's pretty miserable, and you don't know where you're going, so it's pretty fearful. But for a devotee, old age means fearlessness and happiness. Because if we're still on the bodily platform, it might not be quite like that. But that's for those who are actually connecting with Krishna. Try to follow this path. And that's one of the reasons old age is like you can't really do much. So in terms of achievement, comparatively. So it's meant to be utilized specifically for this purpose of perfecting one's life. Focusing on Krishna. And not focusing on family, business, politics, sport, all nonsense things. Huh? Not nonsense exactly, but things you shouldn't be thinking of at that time of your life. But unfortunately, we all know the actual situation of the world today. People often focus more on those things when they get older. More than even before. It's incredible how material energy binds us up like this. I remember my mother When my father passed, my mother used to detest. My father was a sports fanatic in one sense. He used to love to watch sport, you know, football. My mother, she hated it. He hated it, you know. She tried to turn the TV off, you know, if she could, but he couldn't do it because everyone else in the house was like into it, you know. So she couldn't. But he didn't like it at all. Never watched it. Never. She, you know, go in the other room. But when my father died, I went to see my mother, and she said, "Be quiet, be quiet. The football's on. The football's on. The football's on the television. Be quiet, be quiet." She sat there like a glued to the television watching football. She never ever watched it before. And you know why? You know why? She was so attached to my father. Deep attachment. She's totally dependent on him. So this was like being with him, you know? She felt like she was with him watching the television. Such as the attachment and the bondage to this world is so incredible. I couldn't even talk to her, practically the whole time. Amazing world that we live in, how we become bound up even in old age. It doesn't go away. Only if we take this higher taste, so param, we have to have param drishva navarta taste, higher taste, attraction for hearing and chanting about Krishna. Old age is a great opportunity for that. Isn't it, Tiaga? Tap of it? We can take it or leave it, but it's a great opportunity. Take it or leave it, that's our choice. Isn't it? You're still a young lady, you won't about these things. And you're all good. I see faces now. I see Sevananda sat here. And I probably met you when you were a young 20-something-year-old young man. Bright young kid. You know, skinny little fella. Jumping around. And now 65 or something? I don't know what you are. 64. Rasa Prayana. You're still looking pretty young though, isn't he? He looked pretty young. I don't see any grey hair at all. See any grey hairs? No hairs. They've all gone. He's not quite so old. Really not that much. 60 something? 60 what? 60. Okay, we're coming up there. The singers were 68 or what? 67? 78. All getting up there now, aren't they? Yeah? They were kids when you first met them, right? We were kids back then just looking for the bliss. A ragtag band of transcendentalists. Great song, Mangalananda. And ladies I don't comment on, but I'm sure some of you ladies are getting older too. This is what we should be doing in old age, you know, preparing. Life is a preparation for death in one sense. It'll come, it'll come. Hear and chant as much as we can about Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Jai Sri Prabhupada ki. On behalf of the temple management, we like to thank Maharaj, Jagannatha Maharaj, for the past 3 days, enlightening us on the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita.
Pardon?
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
I can't hear.
On the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita for the past 3 days, thank you for enlightening us, Maharaj.
Oh,
and
Bhagavad
also
Gita.
like to thank the devotees
Hare Krishna.
for the past 3 days coming and getting the association, Maharaj, and taking the advantage. So thank you devotees. Jai Sri Prabhupada. Oh, you have a question, is it?
Hey, Jai Prabhu Prabhupada ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai.
Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Oh, same one last night. The same person last night asked the question. Huh? Which scripture are you going to quote from now? Nyaka Upanishad. It says something like that.
Guru Maharaj, I have a question. In relation with truth and knowledge, I just came across a very nice pastime of Srila Prabhupada, which he mentioned, gossip, it will destroy
Gossip.
this movement.
Gossip.
Gossip, it will destroy this movement.
Destroy the movement.
When I was reading this particular pastime, I was thinking, how can gossip can actually destroy a movement? I didn't understand what Srila Prabhupada meant by that. Can you please enlighten me?
Well, the exact quote, gossip will destroy this movement, is that what you said? Oh, you have it right there, that's good, I'm glad you got it there. Couple of devotees. Now this is, what is it? This is a memory. It's not necessarily exactly word for word. It's a memory told by Kurma Prabhu, who's pretty good because he used to keep a diary. Gossip, it will destroy this movement. Melbourne Temple. Behind Srila Prabhupada's room was a tiny 2-meter square kitchen. There each day Chitralekha would prepare rasgullas for Prabhupada, who ate the sweets daily with his breakfast. Around mid-morning, Upendra would start to prepare Prabhupada's lunch. A couple of devotees entered the kitchen while Upendra was cooking. Before too long, Upendra, as was his sometimes frivolous habit, had reduced the conversation to a mundane gossip session. After the devotees left the kitchen, Prabhupada, from his adjoining room, suddenly called for Upendra in an angry voice. Upendra, come in here. Upendra ran in. Prabhupada looked disturbed. Yes, Srila Prabhupada. What were you doing? I was just talking to some devotees in the kitchen. Prabhupada shook his head in disgust. Gossip. It will destroy this movement. After a few moments, Prabhupada dismissed Upendra, who was visibly shaken. Offering his obeisances, he left the room. Chitralekha recalls Upendra immediately came downstairs and related the whole incident. He was mortified, as usual, from Prabhupada's chastisement. I guess he needed it because Upendra loved to gossip. I don't know whether Upendra was able to take the lesson to heart, but I certainly did. From that day I made a conscious effort never to gossip about devotees. So that's from Kurma's book, The Great Transcendental Adventure. Thank you very much. Here, this is your mobile. So what is gossip? What is gossip? It has a very interesting history. I read it once, but I can't remember what it was, how the word gossip evolved. What is it, in practically speaking? What does it mean, gossip?
Anything not related to Krishna.
Anything?
Not related to Krishna.
Well, yeah, but in general, what does gossip mean? You know, you use this word in Malaysia, gossip? Is it common? What is it? What is gossip?
Speak something which is not could be truthful, about somebody. You are not sure of that.
To speak something which is not truthful? Not truthful about someone. That could certainly be seen as gossip. It may be a little bit more broader than just that. What does it say in the dictionary? Gossip, what's it say?
Casual or unconstrained conversation.
A what?
Casual or
unconstrained conversation. Meaningless, just going on and on, just thinking of something to talk about, positive, negative, anything under the sun, meaningless, just to pass the time away. That's not necessarily as dangerous as what you mentioned or what you mentioned in terms of how we see gossip. You might just be talking. Many people just talk for the sake of it. They can't stop talking. They cannot hear anyone else. They just talk, on and on about everything. But when it's a directive with an agenda, and you're looking and trying to find, with no intentions to actually solve the problem, so to speak, or to benefit anyone. You're just talking about negativity. You're just talking about, fault finding and so on. This is the anything in that direction is very detrimental. Now, this doesn't necessarily refer to that, but this gossip just absorbs. Now, what are we here for? We're here to become Krishna conscious. That's the idea, isn't it? That's the idea. And we know, we've already heard even today, without going particularly in that direction specifically, that the importance of hearing about Krishna and how that happens to be transformational. So if we're gossiping, means we're not going to be talking about Krishna. If you gossip about Krishna, like Prajapati, if you're talking about Krishna, that's fine. If you're not, it's like Prajapati. So if you're talking about Krishna, it's not exactly, it's kind of, you could say it's gossip, you're just talking this way and that way and this way and that way, but you're not speculating. But if you're just talking about something, did you hear the news about boo, 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 boo? It may be true, it may not be true, but you just talk about it. So what? What's the use of it? What's the value therein? It's a form of subtle sense gratification at best. And it occupies, it makes the other person's consciousness, affects the other person's consciousness. When Prabhupada says it destroys the movement, it depends what you mean by the movement. The movement in theory may carry on, but as a movement, it's not really a movement. It's an institution which exists, but it's not moving towards its destination because everyone's absorbed in temporary affairs. So in that way it destroys the movement, in the real sense of the term of ISKCON is a movement. And it may even destroy your devotional creeper if it's negative. Depends on the nature of the chat, of the chit-chat, of the talk, and what the intention of the other person. We all know how dangerous it is to hear blasphemy, for instance. We know how dangerous it is to associate with a person who is very envious or very, ill-motivated. It can really affect our consciousness. When we listen to things, now we heard last night about the telex machine, how Prabhupada didn't encourage it because it will increase the gossip within our movement. We know how social media today publicizes. You can put anything more or less on social media, whether it's true or not true, and you'll get people who will tune into it who may well believe what you say. And even if they don't believe what you write on social media or say on social media, it affects their consciousness. They start to develop doubts, or they start to develop fears, or whatever it may be, because of some falsity which was written or spoken on social media, isn't it? And it sticks with you. Have you ever noticed that, how it's difficult to shake off? Wasn't it Amir Prabhu the other day when you had that exciting experience in New Mayapur? Somebody on and on and on and on and on. It's difficult to shake it off, difficult to clear your consciousness. It pollutes our consciousness. It's like you become dirty, and you've got to take a good bath. And if we keep associating with gossip, then we never get clean. We never develop attraction towards Krishna consciousness. But we have this tendency to hear this mundane stuff, and we have this tendency to hear negativity also. It's a common thing. One of the characteristics of a pure devotee is free from the tendency to criticize others. One of the characteristics of a pure devotee. We're not on that level. We have a tendency to almost hear criticism of others. Sometimes we even enjoy it. Sometimes. We have a hidden agenda there, It's part of putting ourselves in the center. Putting someone else down is indirectly putting ourselves up. Indirectly. So there's so many angles for that, but it just covers our consciousness and therefore kills the very purpose of the Krishna conscious movement. If you read Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj's article on Putana, the killing of Putana, how Putana, it represents, in many ways it represents our parents, it represents society. When the child is born, child is blank, as a blank kind of, just soaks up anything that comes in. And right from the very beginning, the child is exposed to nonsense, mundane topics, isn't it? Completely. Destroy, almost like, makes it very difficult for the child to see outside of that perspective, because they're educated right from the beginning. You are your body, goal of life is to be happy and to enjoy the family, the this, the that, and so on, and it goes on and on. The first guru is basically like Putana in our lives. Looks very nice, but comes with poisoned breast, to kill the newborn child. So it kills, and then spiritual path, it may be, different types of hijacking on the spiritual path are there too by various upstarts in the name of spiritualism who captivate and capture the attention of the aspiring spiritualist and waylay them on their path of devotion or their spiritual paths. So it's like that. It just takes us away and weakens our determination, weakens our faith, weakens our confidence, weakens everything, our enthusiasm. Everything is weakened when we expose ourselves or we become involved in this unnecessary gossip. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi.